One of the biggest questions when you go tiny is where are you going to put your home? This is often referred to as where you're going to park it. In this video, I'm going to show you the 4 most common options with the pros and cons for each and where to find these options. I'm actually going to show you how to find land for tiny homes anywhere in the US. By the end of the video, you're going to have a clearer picture of what's possible, what to watch out for, and the websites to find land where tiny homes are allowed. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Erin, and I'm a real estate agent, passionate about alternative housing because I understand what's going on in the real estate market. We need smaller options. I create content to help you learn about ADUs, tiny homes, and maximizing smaller spaces through 2 different YouTube channels. I'll link the other one in the description. So if you're looking to downsize, find a tiny home, or retire tiny, you came to the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. I'm going to be talking about 4 setup options today. You can see here some options give you more control and some give you more flexibility. The first option is when you rent the land and rent the home. This is the most flexible option. It is really ideal for those who just want to test out tiny living, or if you just want to try out a community. You're going to find these options in tiny home communities that offer rentals, sometimes on Airbnb or VRBO that have extended stays, like a week or a month or longer, possibly even Facebook Marketplace, and then RV parks that actually have year-round tiny homes. Before you get into this option, you want to find out, is it furnished? Is it unfurnished? What's included in the rent? Are utilities included? Is the lease flexible? What are the terms? Is this month by month or is it longer? Find out if there's any kind of guest parking or pet policies. The pros of this setup, very low commitment. It's usually move-in ready and you're not going to have maintenance responsibilities. You get to test out the location before buying or even test out the lifestyle before committing. Now, the cons, you're not going to have any ownership or equity, and you're really going to be limited on any type of customization, as well as the availability of the property. Now, a tip, you might want to consider getting insurance if you have any personal contents, but because you're renting, you won't need insurance on the structure. Now, option 2 and 3 that I'm going to go over are similar and have a lot of overlap, but option 2 is a more informal option because it has to deal with you owning the home and placing it on family land. Things you want to do before moving in. Check the zoning and permitting. Some counties or parishes don't waive the rules because it's family land or a family member moving in. You want to make sure a tiny home is legal for the property. And even though it is family, you do want to have a written agreement, how long you can stay, what happens if circumstances change? What about utilities or access? Who's going to pay for the hookups? Does the land need to be modified in any way for the home to be placed? Do you need to run electric or water further out to the site? Is there enough driveway space or access to deliver your home? And you also want to talk about the exit plan. Talk about what happens if either party wants to change the arrangement. This can help prevent tension later. It may be a little bit uncomfortable to have these conversations with your loved ones, but I guarantee you it's a lot easier than arguing about it later. Now, the pros, you're not going to have a land cost, you're not going to have to pay any property taxes, and you'll be able to stay close to your family. The cons depend on the family relationship stability because there's potential for disagreements. So have those conversations before, get it in writing, even if it's just informal, at least you made that effort. For this setup, you're going to want to have insurance on your contents and your structure. Option 3 that I want to share with you is when you own the home and you actually rent the land or do some type of in-kind exchange for the lot rent. This is very common in a tiny home community or an RV park. Some RV parks do allow long-term stays, so you want to inquire if you're considering an RV park. There could be some landowners open to leasing their lot, and even some that want to offer an in-kind exchange for work on the property, maybe cleaning the house, childcare, animal care. It's a really cool way to exchange services, but not the monetary part. I want to show you a couple communities that you could actually live in. Things you want to check before you get into this arrangement: check the lease length. What are the renewal terms? Is it month to month? What's included? Is it utilities, amenities, maintenance? Is there any type of restrictions on your home style or size? Can you make additions, maybe like a deck or a shed or something that's semi-permanent? You also may want to ask if you can sublet if you plan to travel at all. If you're getting into some kind of in-kind exchange, I would still do some type of lease setup, but in the part that actually lists the money, you could list the services you're exchanging for. The pros: it's a much lower upfront cost than actually buying a piece of land and developing it. You're not going to have property taxes, and you still have flexibility to relocate your home later if you need. If you're in a community, you could have access to some really cool amenities. Some of the cons: there's no land equity. You could be subject to rent increases or lease termination, and you have likely little control over the rules and the neighbors. But for insurance, you do want to get insurance on your contents and your structure. Now, option 4, this gives you the most control. You buy the land, you own the home. So it's really perfect for those who are committed to tiny living, but it's going to be the most work for you. I am going to show you where to find these opportunities on the next slide. But before you get into this arrangement, you want to check the zoning. Is a tiny home on wheels or a small foundation home allowed? And is there any type of size restriction? You want to know about utilities. Is there water, sewer, or power available? And if not, what's going to be the cost to add them? Utilities get a lot more costly if the area you're connecting to is very far from the property. Is there any land improvements you're going to need? A driveway, if you're going to have to add dirt or do some grading. You want to make sure that you're going to have access for the delivery of not only your home, but to get other big equipment in there if you're going to have to do some development. The pros: of course, you get full ownership. You're not leasing, you're not renting. So you've got the freedom to customize. And then you also could have potential appreciation of your property. You could make the decision to actually sell your home and the land later. Some of the cons: higher upfront cost. You're going to have more responsibility because you're going to have maintenance and infrastructure possibly. And then, of course, what we all love: property taxes. For this setup, you're going to need insurance definitely on the structure and the contents. You may be in a situation, depending on your area, where you're required to get actual homeowners insurance. But check with an insurance specialist to see what you need. So you're probably wondering, where do I find land for a tiny home? There are a couple different ways. The most labor intensive for you is going to be the slow process, where you go to the parcel maps for the county or parish you're in, find the land that you're looking at to purchase and see who owns it, what's the size, what's the zoning. But you're going to have to reach out to that landowner to actually see, hey, do you want to sell this piece of property? I'm interested, and go through the motions all on your own. It's probably more of an option if you're familiar with the area. You could find some land to purchase on places like Facebook Marketplace, maybe Craigslist. Just please, I caution you, there are so many scams out there, especially with vacant land. You want to make 1,000% sure of what you're getting into. You could hire a real estate agent that could check the MLS listings and use some of their search filters with words like no restrictions, unrestricted. When you find some options, though, you're still going to have to go a little bit further and check the zoning for the property to see if tiny homes are allowed. And the con: if you're looking across the US or looking at multiple locations, you might have to actually use multiple agents. I do, of course, recommend hiring a real estate agent because you want to make sure you're represented, especially if you're looking in an area that you are not familiar with. Now, there are some websites that you can check: LandWatch and land.com. Those are both free. I'm actually going to give you a screen share of what those look like and show you how to find land that specifically mentions tiny homes. You'll notice if you look at the two sites, land.com, it's the parent site of a bunch of websites, and it's a little bit broader. I find that LandWatch is a lot more detailed, but you could use land.com if you're trying to narrow in on an area and you're just not sure where you're going to land yet. LandWatch is going to have a few more filters and, again, the details on the property. And on those sites, you want to try to use keywords like tiny, RV friendly, unrestricted, no restriction. Those are going to help you narrow down what you're looking at versus looking through hundreds of thousands of properties. Now, before I actually show you how to find these properties, I want to give you some thoughts and some tips and possibly some cautions when you're looking at online land sites. To get more information, you're likely going to have to give your contact information. What this means is your information could be going to several agents. You may get on their email list, their call list. If you are just in the beginning stages of your research journey, you may want to set up a separate email and Google number specifically for this project. Otherwise, you could be inundated with calls, emails, and you don't know if your information is going to be sold. When you inquire on a property, that inquiry typically goes to the listing agent who is representing the seller. And if they happen to represent you, that's called dual agency, which is legal in some states. I just have my own thoughts on dual agency. You may want to consider just hiring your own agent versus working with the listing agent to make sure your interests are represented at the highest level. Now, let's actually search for some land, and I am going to share with you how you can narrow down the land listings to actually find listings that mention tiny homes. On LandWatch, there's tons of filters, and I like to go to the keywords and use the word tiny. That will narrow it down from hundreds of thousands to right over 4,000, and this is over the US. You can narrow it down further by state if you wanted, and that's really going to help you find properties that actually mention the word tiny in their listing. One of the things I like about LandWatch is they give you a lot of detail on the property. You can see they've got pictures, highlights. You can see the word tiny homes mentioned right there, a description. You've got the parcel number. You could actually go to the maps and look up the parcel number. Just a couple of details that this listing agent chose to share, including amenities. You've got a map. This one has a video in particular that gives you that aerial kind of drone overview. That's super helpful. I love that. And then, of course, the contact information for the agency. So instead of putting your information in and having them contact you, you could reach out to them and initiate contact. Now, real quick, I just want to show you the difference. When you're using some of these websites, you're going to see a lot of overlap. You can see this amazingly beautiful picture right there. This is the LandWatch website, and I did the same thing, keyword tiny. This is just how land.com looks. Now, this one actually shows you what land.com shows. When I put the word tiny in, you can see some of those similar properties, but they have a lot less detail. So I do prefer that LandWatch website, but they're both free. You can choose to use whichever is going to work best for you. So to wrap it up, where you place your tiny home is a huge piece of the pie that you've got to figure out when going tiny. The key is knowing your priorities. Is it going to be stability versus flexibility, equity versus a low upfront cost? And you want to match them with that right setup. But I want to hear from you. Which option are you leaning towards? And if you've parked a tiny home, what's your best advice? Do you have any nightmares to share? We would love to hear that. If you've got any ideas or tips or tricks, please let me know so that we can learn from each other. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you want to help support my mission to advocate for tiny homes and ADUs, please give the video a like, share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on some exciting stuff that I have planned. And if you have a tiny home story to share, I have a way to get in touch with me in the description. Check out rearon.com for tips, resources, and real-world stories. Check out the next video that I picked just for you, and I'll see you next time.